Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a job for me.
Where's the goodies?
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This one's a female. She's wearing some sort of leather jacket and a pair of gold wings. Wait, there's a name tag here. I think it's Amelia Earhart. I want you to know, you've always been an inspiration to me. Because of you, generations of women have become pilots.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Because of Everything Old is New Again, generations of people will know the answer to the question, what happened to Amelia Earhart?
Wow, really?
Yes. Adolf Hitler, did he die in that bunker?
Wow.
And what about JFK? Was he assassinated alone by Lee Harvey Oswald? And if so, who supported, if anyone, Lee Harvey Oswald in this procedure? We're here with the rather inquisitive David Cohen.
We're going to solve all of these great mysteries in the next hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about that? We're actually going to point you in the right direction of these. It's old
That's
information.
not what you said. No, that is not what you said. You're already backtracking a minute into the show.
We are going to hold ourselves to being honest and truthful. And the idea is, speaking of that, we are here with Dr. John Viviani. He is someone who has been our UFO extraordinaire, aficionado extraordinaire. He's been with us before. He's part of the Rogues Gallery. He now has quite an interest in history. And being a gentleman that's interested in history, he has become aware of some new things that have come to light on old mysteries, such as the ones we just mentioned. Doctor, welcome.
Thanks. It's nice to be here again.
It's nice to see you. You might want to use the microphone, and we could hear you a little bit better. We're also here with my young aficionado of Amelia Earhart, Angelica Viviani. Angelica, tell us, who was Amelia Earhart?
Okay, hello. Amelia Earhart was the first lady to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And I know a little bit about her, and me and my friend have been reading this book about her, and we're really, really interested.
That's excellent. Why are you interested? Why do you care?
Well, because she was such an interesting person, the way she went across the Atlantic Ocean.
What year did she do that in, by the way?
She did that in 1928.
Wow, how do you know this information? It's very interesting. You're a good student of history, huh?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, do you know who Captain Janeway is from the Star Trek Voyager? You ever hear of her?
No.
All right, well, that's who we heard beginning early on in this show right here.
Not a real person.
Not a real person, but it's something that's interesting that Amelia Earhart made her fame in 1928, yet in the late 1990s on Voyager, she's still mentioned in a storyline and is mentioned
Could
throughout.
you imagine a woman in history being remembered a mere 40 years later?
No, I think it's tremendous. And some of the reason is not only that she did what Lucky Lindy did a year later, which is fly across the Atlantic, right? He did it alone. She had a co-pilot with her, but still, back in the day, she was what would you say, someone that led the way.
Pioneer.
A pioneer, exactly. Good. That's why we have her on
Thank
the
you,
show.
Doctor.
Perfect. Now, the
Can
question is...
Am I done?
Is she known for that, or is she known for disappearing? That's the question. Let's listen to how the presentation of her 1937 disappearance occurred.
Only a short time ago, Amelia Earhart checked over every detail of her $80,000 flying laboratory in preparation for her round-the-world flight. This was to have been her greatest achievement, a sky dash of 28,000 miles. She discussed the hazardous course, which had been plotted for her by Fred Noonan, the navigator who embarked with Miss Earhart upon this great flight. Then to a waiting world came news of disaster as the plane failed to reach tiny Howland Island in mid-Pacific. From California, the aircraft carrier Lexington, with 3,000 men and 72 planes aboard, races into the distant Pacific to join the greatest searching party in the history of aviation.
I mean, she was so famous at the time. Did you hear what America did to find her? That's amazing. If a plane goes down many times with one person in it, you don't have an aircraft carrier coming to look for her.
Right, yeah.
Think
Pretty
about
impressive.
the significance.
Right.
Just take a look at her flight plan. I want you to see before she left what her flight plan was. She left from Oakland, California, and then went to Burbank. From Burbank to Tucson, Arizona. From Arizona to New Orleans. From New Orleans to Miami. From Miami to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Then she went to Venezuela. Then she went to Brazil. Then she went to Senegal. Then she went to Sudan. Then Africa. Then Ethiopia. Then India. Then Burma. Then Siam. Then the Dutch East Indies. In many locations there. She traveled approximately, I'm going to get, looks almost to be about like 7,000 miles before she disappeared on that fateful day in July 2nd, 1937. I mean, if you take a look at this, the flights were amazing. So she was well known for her time. What happened? Can we talk about this? Angelica, have any idea what happened to her on that day?
I believe she wait.
The plane? What happened to the plane?
The plane, I believe, crashed, and it's a big mystery.
And that's it. We never found any developments of anything with respect to Amelia Earhart. Can you tell me, Dr. Viviani, what your research has shown recently? What we have, any bits of evidence at all as to what happened to this woman?
Well, there's supposedly a picture that surfaced with her, first of all, with her navigator's, a pretty good picture of navigator's face, which facial recognition software today pretty much says that it could be him, the navigator. And then there's a picture of her sitting on the dock looking at a Japanese freighter that's towing something that looks like her plane.
Yes, I have the pictures right here. If you want to take a look, they're not that great, but it'll be reminiscent. It'll give you an idea of what you can see online, and you can see there she is right here with her back to the photo. Have you seen this picture, David?
I have, yes.
It's amazing. It went out around the internet recently, and so the question then is, what's going on? Where did this picture take place, and when? There's further a picture of Noonan there off to the side. So the question is, in that picture, you could also see a plane being loaded onto, or is on a boat going by.
No, it's being towed. Yeah, it's being towed.
Right.
It looks like a plane. So the speculation is that she's actually looking at her plane being towed away. And the island where that was, Saipan, was it?
Yes.
That was under Japanese control at the time.
Now, here's the thing. Let's go to the history for a moment. 1937, we're not in World War II yet, of course. We're 4 years short of that. But there is a war going on. There is a lot of problems with the Japanese government, and there's tensions going on against the U.S., if the Japanese if she crashed and she was found by the Japanese imperial government, do you think they would have kept her? Would they returned her? What would they have done, do you think? Any ideas, Doctor? I mean, the way their position was with respect to the United States government, they were not exactly friendly.
They may have kept her, but I don't know why they would keep her and keep it a secret, though.
David?
Right. Yeah, I don't know why they would either. And why wouldn't she have returned?
Well, now that's the thing. They have an American hero in their grasp. Why wouldn't they then talk to the United States government and say, we got your hero, but they were our enemy at the time. They were not I'm not going to say enemy, that's too strong a word, but they were not on good terms with the U.S. in 1937.
So you're saying she was kidnapped?
I'm saying that she may have been found,
keeping her against her will.
Yes. Now I'll play you a clip of a gentleman right now, since we have the time, and listen to him. And he has a take on this that adds to the flavor of this.
Hello, my name is Bill Sablon, and he introduced me to an uncle of ours, and his name was Tunakin Tuhu. He says, there was an incident here in Saipan. Back in the middle 30s, an American woman and an American gentleman that was brought in by the Japanese for questioning, and they were found and located somewhere in the farther southern islands, and they were bringing them to Saipan because Imperial Japan was notified about them. So apparently, I think they were both killed in Saipan and buried there. And right now, America's still looking for Amelia Earhart.
There we go. So that gentleman just came out recently also, basically saying his uncle's given some information in this regard.
And who is he?
He is a... he gave you his name. I can't pronounce it right now.
But I mean, like, who?
He's a gentleman that's a naturalized U.S. citizen that has come forward to say that his uncle was in Saipan back in the day, and his uncle was a guard at a jail that had an American woman and American man in the jail that passed away in the jail. Now he's saying the pass away took place in the early 1940s, and she crashed in 1937. We'll be back on Everything Old is New again to investigate that and more. There's more information about this that I'd love to go and get involved with to talk about. Angelica Viviani, what do you say on the way out? We'll be right back right after this, correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll be back. I'll see you in a few.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Alan Alda, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
There's no conspiracy there. Dr. Viviani is here with us, following up on the fictitious Dr. Alan Alda.
He was real, though.
Hawkeye Pierce.
Right.
Alan Alda was on our show, man. That was not made up.
Exactly. How do you like that? There's got to be a conspiracy behind that. Is how did we get him on this show? There's a story that's got to be told there.
Pure luck.
And persistence.
And
naivete and all of that.
You have all of that, though.
No, it's his naivete to
and his persistence,
exactly.
Yes. Exactly.
My persistence, his naivete.
Yeah.
We're hearing Everything Old is New Again, investigating, talking about Amelia Earhart with Angelica Viviani, 8-year-old. She is a fan of Amelia Earhart. Tell me why. What's the big deal? Why do you care about Amelia Earhart all these years later? Tell us why.
Well, I care about her because she was like the first person to do something that like men would usually do, and she's like a great hero and a good example like of how you should like move on in your life and how you should like be who you are and go try something new. And that was really inspiring, and she's a great person.
Excellent. And does that affect you? Like, do you do plays now or anything else as a result of like seeing her inspiration?
Not really, but sometimes in acting, I feel like I'm kind of like her, like how she's like flying and how I'm like moving forward and how she's moving forward. Yeah.
Right. So she's an inspiration to get you to act a little bit, right? Okay, that's good. So the answer is yes, not no.
She actually answered your specific question perfectly.
Exactly, but I didn't like the answer. So, no, you did beautifully, Angelica. That's what I like is you're have the courage to go out there and do what you want to do, and maybe some of that is Amelia Earhart saying to you, you know what, it's okay. All the boys weren't pilots when I was a pilot, and it doesn't matter. Girls can do anything they want, right or wrong?
Right.
You can go on a little more on that if you want. No, I'm kidding. All right, so here's the idea. Back in 1943, we see the photo on Marshall Island of the short-haired woman, Ann Noonan, her co-pilot, sitting there with the receding hairline, the electroplane that they piloted in the background on a Japanese ship. So do we believe that? David Cohen, is that solid evidence for you?
It's not solid evidence, but it's intriguing.
Okay, Doctor, what is your research show about this? Is it how much does this solidify the fact that she was alive in 1943 on the Marshall Islands?
It doesn't solidify anything. It just, like Dave said, it's an intriguing possibility.
Okay, now, in 1991, there was an aluminum patch found in an island right close to the Marshall Islands. And it's actually near Saipan Island. And what it was is on her ship, it's very famous. You could see that on her ship there's a window in the back of the ship. They put uniquely, they were one of the only ones to do this, they put this Miami patch on it. It covers the window of the ship. And they riveted it onto the ship. They found this piece in this area, in the Saipan Islands, and have done investigation on it and seen that they believe this is the piece that you see that was added onto Amelia Earhart's plane. So now it's a second piece of evidence that may place her and that ship landing in Saipan Island. Of course, we know her goal was to go to New Guinea, and that was near the Saipan Island as well. So is that unbelievable? That lends some credibility where we might be narrowing to where she ended up. No, Doctor?
Yeah, it could be, but the question is, how far away is that from where they think that she could have crashed, and could it have floated, or the currents could have taken it somewhere?
And were they able to prove that was the piece that came off the plane?
Yeah, they're pretty much assured of that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty assured.
But as far as how it got there, I don't know.
Now, there's always been a question as to why she didn't communicate and what the problem was with her communication. There's a video that's been released, and it was released recently, but it was taken in 1937, the day that she died, July 7th, 1937. You can see the video, and they now have the technology. They've taken a look, and you see the video on New Guinea, and it's like it's not really a great airfield. It's basically just a field, and for some reason the antenna to the airplane was on the fuselage, the underside of the airplane. Now, as the plane turns to turn around and then take off, and later on you see it take off, as it turns you see a little puff of smoke, or it wouldn't be smoke, but a puff of dirt, and you could see that the antenna fell off the airplane right then and there, that day right before they disappeared. So now we've got some information as to why she wasn't. Now, that was part of the big puzzle back in the day in 37, why she wasn't communicating, because she communicated all the time. That was how she got to where she was going. She communicated from tower to tower and so forth. So now we kind of know that she was in New Guinea, took off, the communications are gone. We know that this Miami patch, or they also call it a scrab patch, from her plane was found near the Saipan Islands. And now we've got this gentleman that says that his uncle was at the Saipan Islands, a jail, and we've also got the photograph of her in 1943 at the Marshall Island. Do we put all these together and make any conclusion, or are we still where we started from in the beginning of the show? David?
Well, like I said, it's all very intriguing, and I don't think it proves anything. But at least it gives some sort of glimmer of hope that maybe we can finally solve what happened to her.
Doctor, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was well said.
Maybe like that. My thing, though, is we're never going to have proof. Like in these days, I see in the courts, everyone wants a videotape of everything. And if there's not a videotape or forensic evidence, there is no proof. And I don't believe that. We've proved people on death row correctly through less proof than what we've seen here. I'm not saying this proves this. I'm saying that we should at least be open to the idea that the Japanese government may have had her in a jail in Saipan, and the reason why we didn't hear from her was that communication, that antenna fell off of the plane.
I'm just wondering why the government of Japan now wouldn't disclose anything.
That's the next question. Now, this is new information. I'm wondering if people are going to go behind the scenes and say, "Hey, come on, what's up?"
I think I read that the archives they couldn't find anything, and the Japanese government couldn't find anything.
Okay, all right, it's possible. It's possible, but we know more now than they knew then, and I think that's odd that we're now 37, 47, 57, 67, 77, 87, 97, 107, 107, 80 years later. We're being able to put more pieces of the pie together than they could back when it happened. So it's like a cold case, the ultimate cold case.
Right.
So I think it's interesting. Okay. Along those lines...
the Ultimate Cold Case is what you're talking about.
Yeah, The Ultimate Cold Case is a great show that's on right now. Whether it's just for entertainment purposes or not, I'll leave it to you. But what I feel Robert Baer is doing, who's a former CIA case officer, America's CIA case officer, he was active from 96 to 97. If you ever saw the movie Syriana with Clooney... He's this Bob Baer is the person that was who they made that movie about. Now, bottom line is he is spearheading a show that's on History Channel called Hunting Hitler. It's been on for 2 seasons. Now we're in the 3rd season now. David, have you heard of the show at all?
I have heard of the show.
Okay, and what is your initial impression you've not seen it, but what is your impression of what it's about, and would you even be interested in it?
It's about finding out what really happened to Hitler. And yes.
Okay, now, the premise of the show is what, Doctor, with respect to Adolf Hitler? Did they find his body or not? Where are we? Just to start the ball rolling here.
Well, the premise is that they don't think that they think it was a double that they found in the bunker. And I have to tell you, I was very skeptical about even wanting to watch the show because I'm thinking, ridiculous. How can it not be Hitler? They prove, because we're taught in history, it was him, and you take it for granted what you read in high school, right? Or wherever. But I started watching it, and it's very intriguing because they go through like all the forensic details of this investigation.
Well, let's be clear. Let's start it off. The bottom line is, supposedly, Hitler was in this bunker in Berlin when he knew that he was going to die, and he killed himself. This animal would never kill himself. This animal was the ultimate survivalist, was he not? He had the ego of whatever. I mean, listen, I didn't know the guy personally, of course. The point is, I don't think it's beyond belief to think that he had a plan how to get out of this bunker.
Well, watching this show, they said that they not only had a plan, they had multiple plans, multiple exits. The Germans were like very meticulous on. They had every contingency planned out.
Yes. Now before we get to the contingency, here's the thing: the Soviets came in. They're the ones that surrounded the bunker. They're the ones that allegedly found this burned body. That was allegedly Hitler. They brought the body back to Soviet Union. They did dental tests. How accurate are dental tests?
Oh, dental tests are very accurate.
All right. They did dental tests. It's not Hitler. In fact, they thought it was a woman's body.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't.
Beginning first episode.
Really?
It is not Hitler's body. So let's begin. If you begin, you have to buy into the premise that they're telling you the truth, that what I just said is true, then they have not found Hitler's body. That's if you don't buy into that, don't watch the show. But if you don't, I believe that if they were ransacking, the Soviets were ransacking, they weren't interested in Hitler's body and so forth. And now to find out that they've not been able to confirm, and the U.S. government, he's got an investigation going on with what they've done. A lot of material's been released. And he's got this supercomputer that puts these things together as like a big Google. And so if you put in Hitler's body, he comes up with all the material, and he'll see CIA reports. And we have not ever confirmed that we have found Hitler's body. So based on that, we'll get into Hunting Hitler right after this on Everything Old is New Again, see if we can intrigue or get you interested in what happened here.
You would think that they would want to definitely, idea.
Correct. We had problems with Soviets back then, didn't we?
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The public does not want to believe that we lost Adolf Hitler.
We could be on the verge of uncovering evidence that will change this case forever.
The detail is all coming together to paint a picture of Hitler's possible escape like we've never seen before, ever. The fact that there's a living witness is incredible.
It's the smoking gun I spent the last 12 years of my life looking for.
If we have a photograph of Adolf Hitler, that will be one of the most significant discoveries in history.
Hunting Hitler.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. We're hunting Hitler ourselves and following on the coattails of Bob Baer, who's a CIA representative for an operative for 21 years, who's leading and spearheading this show, Hunting Hitler. We're here with David Cohen.
Yes.
And Dr. John Viviani, who enjoys history as much as the next guy.
Greetings.
How's that for an introduction?
Credentials.
I enjoy history as much as the next guy.
And Angelica, you're a history girl, right?
Yes.
Are you enjoying our show?
Yes.
And what do you like about it the best?
That I'm on it.
Oh! That's what I thought. Okay, so
good answer.
Let's take a look. We're now taking a look at this theory that Adolf Hitler did not die in the bunker. If so, we then take a look at this show. You've got to follow this show. Doctor, from the bunker, they have found tunnels to the airport, have they not?
Yes. No, they found.
You feel like you're on the witness stand.
I believe. Yeah, I know. Did I say that?
Did they not?
Did they not? No, I think they found at least 3.
Correct. 1 to the airport. 1 to a. Remember this area? To an area in town that has a tower that oversees the entire Berlin, and there's a long straight street that has street lights and trees on the sides of it. Have you seen this?
Yes.
And if you take they said, well, what is this? This makes any sense. Why would you have a tunnel to this? Well, the tower is a tower to see where your enemies are, of course, if they're coming. And the second thing is an airplane can take off from that runway, that street, because they have a picture at the time. Now you would see the trees and so forth. There's no room for the wings of the airplane. But if you take a look at a photograph of Berlin that was occupied, there were no street lamps there and there were no trees there. So there's no doubt that they could have taken off from there to go somewhere else. Doctor, the first season of finding or hunting Hitler, what have you seen that has... you say you were skeptical about this. Now all of a sudden you're not skeptical.
No,
Why?
I was very skeptical. Like I said, I didn't even want to give it credence to even turn the thing on. But the fact that the guy who worked for the CIA and they do these
Bob Bayer,
they do this forensic the forensic tracking that they do on this as far as and finding physical evidence as far as tunnels. Just all these different possibilities, and they're tracking them to, I think, Argentina.
Well, they're now 700 pages of declassified FBI documents. That's where they start this evaluation. And they got the supercomputer, and they pull up like their whatever.
It's crazy that
information
computer program they got.
Yes, and it goes right to whatever pages
they're looking for.
It's a military
software for.
So he's got a team. This guy Tim Kennedy joins the team. He's got a bunch of guys from the U.S. government, and what they now have done is they then found. If the plane was to fly to a certain location, they then found a German U-boat area that was undercover, that was under caves that no one knew existed. That if they took the U-boat, they could go to Argentina. And it's well known that many Nazis went to Argentina after the war. Do we know that? Do we follow this?
Yes.
They were even in Argentina, and thereafter in South America, there was a safe house.
I was going to say they had a whole network of safe houses and ways for them to hide people.
Right, and in safe houses, they have medicine for stomach problems. Hitler was known to have stomach problems. They had Nazi paraphernalia and silverware, and to in the middle of a jungle to live.
Yeah, they got some of this stuff built in the middle of a jungle, like because it's very opulent. It's amazing. It's not just like Saddam Hussein, was found in a hole. This is what I thought originally, but it's really well thought out.
Yeah, and he certainly there are plans in place. There's also they end up in a Nazi colony that is in season 2, and they're looking to see that they may have been planning a Fourth Reich. And all of this sounds bizarre, but if you watch this show, they take you right to all of this evidence.
Yes, from old farmhouses that they find with a certain basement, and they, as you say, lots of Nazi paraphernalia and Nazi sympathizers, and then they were actually, when you think about it, the theory is that they weren't just hiding; they were looking to rebuild.
Absolutely. The new season now, they're looking to see where they have had left the Germans. Let's back up. The Germans after the war destroyed lots of stuff, anything that had to do with Hitler, which is understandable. But and all of this. But there's a possibility that in Argentina there is an area where they were building under with not being surveilled by anybody, an atomic bomb.
That's the thing. Yeah, they think about that. If they were really there and trying to, have atomic bomb research in Nazi hands.
Yeah, and think about it. Not only that, they then are going underwater and finding material. They found tons and tons of paper material from Germans and high-ranking Germans that went to a certain town in Austria by a Hitler's hometown there by water, and it just. The bottom line is, without getting into all these details, you've got to take a look at this show and see where this is leading to.
Yeah, well, I haven't gotten all the way through it, but I'm thinking like, my skeptical part of me thinks like, if they found it, I mean, I'm waiting to see what they found. Why are they keeping it a secret if they really found something, or why wouldn't it have come out already that, hey, we found this? I don't know.
Well, they've also found individuals that are. Claiming they've seen Hitler there's a woman there.
In the opera.
What's that?
Didn't someone say they saw him in the opera?
Saw an opera in Argentina, and then in another location saw him and held his mother of this woman held his coat in Argentina. So if that's the case, if there's this hand-eye or what would you call that? Eyewitness evidence of people. Now, they might be lying. Who knows? But people saying that they think that they saw Adolf Hitler in Argentina after World War II. Do you believe that or not, David? I mean, would you believe that person, or what's?
Sure. I mean, I don't know what he would have done to disguise himself. Maybe grown the mustache out, or taken it off altogether.
But I'm thinking that here's the. He may not, like I said, thought the same thing about disguising himself, but maybe after a time he didn't disguise himself because there was a bunch of sympathizers around. They were trying to help him. So.
Yeah, this whole organization existed, and if it existed, it just to support him and to support the Nazi way.
Right.
My point of view is this. This is now just like treated some ways, just like a UFO. If you take a look at... if you take a look at online and you pull the show up, there are reviews. Oh, History Channel's lost their mind. Oh, History Channel's lost their credibility. How is this happening? Why is
asking questions losing your mind?
Right, and they're showing proof. They're showing you the evidence. In fact, they I don't want to give it away, but they found some tangible evidence.
Oh, great!
But why do we say when we found tangible evidence that History Channel's lost its mind?
Because you know what bothers me is because we're taught one thing in school.
And by these boobs who read it in a book. Who told them what to say?
Who read it in a book, who read it in a book, who read it in a book.
Right.
And so they're just regurgitating information. And who's to say that that's not the correct history?
Let me ask you a question. Until today, did you know that we didn't find Hitler's body?
Actually, no.
All right. How about you, David?
I didn't know we didn't find it, no.
All right.
I didn't know
so that's scorned? That's a fact at this point in time.
And headphones off.
But I mean, why do we have such closed minds all the time to these things?
I don't know. Stop talking. I can't take it. Yeah. No, you're right.
Oh, there's people. Yes, lots of people watching.
Because people have closed minds. It's a fact.
All right, so we're not solving anything with regard to this, other than to say that I think it's clear that he didn't die in that bunker. What else happened, I have no idea. And let's take a look at this show and see what the conclusion is. But take a look at the evidence, the facts that are presented in this show. You can binge it. It's a great show to binge.
Yeah.
And
I have to admit, I was wrong. I really didn't even want to watch it.
We were playing cards many times. For the last, I would say, 6 times we played cards once a month. And I would say about this show for the last 6 months, and I would be...
At least a year.
Yeah, at least I would be scorned when I would mention this show. Just like everybody else.
Because you're brought up on certain information, and you think it's that... because you're taught that, especially in elementary school. This is what it was.
Right.
This is XYZ. And you're like...
There's so much of it that's whitewashed or just...
And now as I'm looking into other things about it, 9 times out of 10, there's a backstory to everything. The history books are only an outline of what happened. We don't know everything about everything.
And let's be clear, we're not just talking speculation. There are FBI documents where our government was looking for him and others after the war ended that's been declassified. So let's not pretend that this guy Bob Baer is making this up and doing this with no support.
I saw some of those reviews on online. Oh, this is crazy stuff. Those are reviews from people that don't even watch the show.
Exactly. It's the same thing we get for Everything Old is New Again, when people start to review our show and they make comments about us. And you know what?
They say they love the show, and then we find out they didn't even watch the show. And then when they watch it, then they say how much they hate it. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll be back on Everything Old is New Again right after this. Continue talking about conspiracies. Look at that. Wow.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
It's not an easy thing to kill the President of the United States. But according to the official report, one man pulled off the crime of the century completely on his own. I've never believed it. One man can't plan this without support. When I was still at the agency, I made a request for files concerning Lee Harvey Oswald and the Kennedy assassination. I took it all the way to the director, George H.W. Bush. He gave his approval. But when I went to retrieve the files, I was told they were all lost. Nothing the CIA does is random. They don't lose information, they conceal it.
Now, those missing files have been declassified.
I believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman in Dealey Plaza. But I always believed he had a network supporting him. With these declassified files, I'm going to prove it.
Everything Old is New Again, joining Bob Baer on the investigation of John F. Kennedy and his assassination. We're here with the ever skeptical, but what would you say, interested David Cohen?
Yes, that's a fair description.
All right, and we're here with history aficionado extraordinaire, Dr. John Viviani.
Yes, thank you.
And you just went through an investigative procedure that was grilling and exhausting, I'm sure, with regard to Amelia Earhart, and then thereafter with hunting Hitler.
It's exhausting.
So I know we were taxing your abilities here, the mental and physical abilities. We've got a few minutes left. I want to just, in the last 10 minutes...
I think I could solve the JFK.
Solve the JFK, yes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
That's where we're at. So I'll give you 10 minutes.
I can solve that case in 9 minutes.
What we want to talk about is they have re-released, or I should say there was initial release of documents, as we know, from the government on the JFK assassination. Thereafter, they've now recently re-released, if you realize that was
and
like
they're going to
re-release brand new material that has been declassified, and they're going to release more of it down the line. Now, from that, there's been an investigation done by Bob Baer and everything in association with Everything Old is New Again, and called JFK Declassified, Tracking Oswald. And the theory is that Oswald did, of course, kill the president, and they believe and that they've proven that he did it alone. The question is, did this guy do this alone, like with no support of anyone whatsoever at all, that no one knew what was going on, that he was just some goof that got this gun from a gun store and went up to this depository and killed the president by himself?
You said suppository?
The book depository. I never heard the word book depository in my life, except for associated with this, by the way, but okay.
But
do you think he did it alone?
Suppository.
It's enough to make it upset. Again, we talk about history. We're supposed to believe that? Seriously, you believe he did this completely alone?
Well, if you let us answer the question. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I never believed he did it absolutely alone.
What do you believe going in?
I believe that he, had some help, whether it was another shooter or somebody supported him. It wasn't just some one crazy guy. That's my theory. Based on years of I have a team of people in the field working on this.
You do.
Speak.
Accountants galore running around.
Yes.
Okay. You had a team of accountants or a team of lawyers and accountants? Who's in your team?
It's just my belief.
That's what I thought. Now, see how I get right to the heart of it? See? Now, Dr. Viviani, have you seen any of this show, JFK Declassified, Tracking Oswald, with Bob Baer again? For the investigation continues with him. He's put the Hitler aside for a moment, and he's getting involved with this.
No, I haven't seen the show.
All right. So, Angelica, have you seen the show? No. Tell us who JFK was. Let's start from there.
He was one of the presidents of the United States.
What happened to the poor guy?
He got shot by some evil person.
Yes. And that was the end of it, right?
Yep, that was the end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to try to solve what happened there. If you look at this show, they start with the preposition that JFK was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, but why? Now, Oswald met with the Russians, and he met with the Russians in Russia, and thereafter in Mexico City he met with. The theory is that they've come out with, and they've got some evidence for this, and tell me if you believe this or not, the Bay of Pigs is clearly associated with the assassination, in that the Bay of Pigs, as you may remember or know from history, it involved the Cubans. The Cubans were trying to fight against the communist rule. And so what happened was there were Cubans that were freedom fighters that came to America and were trained by Americans and the CIA.
To overthrow Castro.
Correct. And then they went back and they got slaughtered because they got no air support from the United States of America, which was promised. The few survivors of that debacle, the thought now is, was so upset with Kennedy that they said, Kennedy's two-faced, his CIA bungled this whole situation and bungled it, and therefore we're upset with the president of the United States. We want to kill the president. That's the theory. You don't buy it?
That I don't buy.
Why not?
There's you got to make a big leap from like being upset at the president to actually going
because
out and killing the
because of
president.
an administration. Who knows what reason?
Well, they just lost their country. They were promised air support. They were promised support. They were trained by the United States, by the CIA, to do this, and they got destroyed in the Bay of Pigs. They would be pretty upset.
Yeah.
We've done a lot worse things than that.
And we've had a lot of bad consequences as a result.
But we haven't had presidents killed over it.
I don't know. We could,
more
investigate that.
Theories.
Well,
the assassination of Abe Lincoln. Who really did it?
Well, I mean, the point is that there's a connection there with the Cubans, and the Cubans are very close to the Russians. Bottom line is that occurred, and the question now is, if Bob Baer finds that there's a connection between Lee Harvey Oswald and a support staff, some people that helped him, that are associated with the Russians and or Cubans, at the time, if that was released, would that have been World War III? If the Warren report said the Russians or the Cubans were behind Lee Harvey Oswald, supporting him to kill the President of the United States, would that not have been World War III?
Yeah, well, we would have done something.
We had a President of the United States assassinated by foreign governments or people associated with foreign governments. Yeah. Is that not a reason to keep this under wraps? You don't want to have a World War III, do you? At least interesting questions that people on the radio are not responding in any way, shape, or form. So it leads to very good radio.
Keep beating us down, Doug. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, fine. You win.
Now, I'll tell you, they followed Oswald's path after he killed Kennedy, and they found that he was on the way to, there's a number of safe houses in that area of Cuban defectors. Really? And they were all in the same area. And it was a bus line. You think he was going to a movie theater? His plan. You think he killed the president and didn't have a plan how the heck to get out of there? Yes or no?
Didn't he shoot that cop in the movie theater?
Yes, because his plan fell apart. But his plan was to go on a certain...
He took in a movie?
No, his plan was to go. He was going to on a bus line, and the bus line that still exists to this day goes to the exact location where there's a bus stop, where there are 6 houses on the same street, right where the bus stops, that are all owned at the time by Cuban defectors. So the thought is, do these defectors provide a safe house, or at least an offer of a safe house, to Oswald, that it fell through because the bus didn't come, and that's where the plan fell apart. Oswald, was ready to just take the bus. He had the bus ticket, by the way, and he was ready to take the bus to this particular location. So if that was the case, he'd then be in a safe house in Texas with they're Cuban nationals, we'll call them, that owned these homes. That's where the investigation led. Last you saw JFK Declassified, tracking Oswald. That was only 6 episodes long. Then it came back with the new material, and we have yet to see what has been produced from this. Is it intriguing? Is it something will you blow off? Is it something you feel may be worthwhile?
It's fascinating.
Doctor, David?
It's a new take on it, yeah.
I mean, what is your theory?
Are you getting paid to pitch these TV shows?
I wish we could get a guest from these shows. I've tried to get guests. These characters ignore me.
Really?
This History Channel. It's amazing.
It's a conspiracy.
That's the conspiracy. What's going on with that? Oswald was not a nut. He had a plan how to get out of this scenario.
That's
and it was
something
to the safe
I never
houses.
realized that. Again, they teach in history books that he just was running away. He didn't
exactly. He's not a fool. The man killed the president of the United States. He wasn't a fool. The man planned one of the worst dastardly things ever to occur, right?
So why wouldn't he plan?
Why would he plan an escape route? You think he didn't want to be? If he did it for some reason, and for that reason, he thought someone would be supporting his position. Whoever it was, in our example, is the Cubans. So whoever that was would support him. He'd be a hero to them in some ways, or the Russians, whoever it was. So let's put it this way: if you thought you were going to get caught or had no way out, why wouldn't you just kill yourself after you killed the president? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want to be, going through this trial and all this stuff. So he certainly had a plan to get out, and that's what Bob Baer comes in. He says, let's look at this. Someone supported this guy. Had to have some support in some way. Otherwise, he's just a lone gunman that's a nut. I don't believe the Warren Commission would. Do you think the Warren Commission did everything they could do? Do you think that they come to every conclusion they could?
No.
In the midst of all that, listen, we had Cuban Missile Crisis was like a year before. We have huge tensions with this atomic possible war that could happen with the Russians. So unless they're assured that this is exactly what happened. We don't want any rumors coming out. The wars have started for less. We don't want World War III based on this without the possible or real information as to what happened. Doctor.
Oh, I never thought of it that way. So I'm going to have to put my team onto it.
All right, so we've solved nothing, but we've raised quite a number of questions. We're happy to do so on Everything Old is New Again. Tune into these shows right after you tune into Everything Old is New Again every weekend on your local talk station and enjoy some fun, some pop culture entertainment with Everything Old is New Again. Join us.